It's been a little while since I've done a film review, so I thought it's about time. In recent days, I've been thinking a lot about space, NASA, um, the Apollo program. No particular reason. I was just watching Apollo 13 the other day, and it just kind of set me in the mind for this. So I decided to watch First Man again. It's the second time I've seen the film. I bought it in July 2019, which was the 50th anniversary of the actual moon landing, first moon landing, technically. And this is a film I want to review. So, First Man, directed by Damien Chazelle and starring Ryan Gosling. It's a 2018 film. Um, I just decided to look at a few reviews of this to see what sort of analysis it got, what sort of feedback it got. It was quite critically acclaimed, but it also didn't do that well in the box office. It's seen as a box office failure, although critical reception was quite good. However, I've come across one review by Casey Dreyer of the Planetary Society from October the 15th, 2018, and I have to say I roughly agree with it because he sums it up as a joyless first man. Visual moments of adventure cannot save a dreary film. Now, I have to say this kind of feels like a missed opportunity. Um, what we have here is a film about first man on the moon, Neil Armstrong, one of the defining events not just of the 20th century, but really of human civilization. And it's just not a particularly joyful film. It has a very, I'm not sure I'd use the word dreary, but sad overtones to it. Now, part of this is because of the true story of Neil Armstrong. He did have some difficult family circumstances. His young daughter had died at the age of two of, I believe it was brain cancer. Um, and I can understand wanting to bring that sort of stuff into a biopic about, someone so famous. I also have no criticism of Ryan Gosling. I think he really does capture the persona of Neil Armstrong. Armstrong was quite an introverted man. He wasn't flash, he was kind of a salt of the earth type character. That's the impression I get. Maybe it's a Midwest thing, being from Ohio, but he was always very he wasn't someone who showed his emotions easily. Um and I always felt there was a slightly sad element to Neil Armstrong. Despite that incredible achievement, there was always a sort of melancholy about the man. That's the impression I got from interviews, which is in contrast to Buzz Aldrin, who was quite a larger than life character. Um, so in that sense, I think Gosling really does capture that. And it's also the second collaboration, as I understand, between Ryan Gosling and Damien Chazelle. The first, of course, was La La Land. They may have done other work, but I think they make a good team. I like Ryan Gosling. I think he's a good actor, and I do think he captured that. But I do question why Giselle chose to put so much focus on that background. Armstrong, of course, must have been affected by it. Um, and I'm sure he was also affected by the Mercury 7 deaths. One of them was a personal friend. This was the fire that occurred in the test in 1967. But there's a bit of the film I just didn't like. I mean, it showed his wife, played by Claire Foy, who is famous from The Queen, excuse me, from The Crown. They have a fiery row, or really, it's a one-sided row where she's having a go at Armstrong for Neil for being distant because he was quite work-focused and kind of the film gives the impression that he was sort of abandoning family life. I guess for astronauts, it's a bit like being in the military. It can put some strains on home life, and that's all very well. But it's just like this is one of the defining moments of the 20th century, and it leaves you with a very kind of gloomy anticlimax. you know. So it's there isn't the hype up to this big moment because you're focusing on the sadness of it. Like, it's I don't know if that's based on historic reality, if they really did have a row the night before. But this is an area where I think artistic license could have been understandable. A man's going to the moon, he's going to make history, and it just didn't feel right. So I know there was controversy over the American flag thing. I wouldn't weigh so much on that. There was allegations that Chazelle was trying to be politically correct by not showing patriotism. I'm not sure that's the case. I think this film was very much focused on Armstrong the man, much more than what he done, and that's understandable. But this is really the first major film about that Apollo 11 mission, and I feel it was a bit of a wasted opportunity. I feel that, and it's not the first time. Frankly, there's a lot of films nowadays that take away the human spirit. They focus too much on the drama side of things. This isn't really the same example because it's a fictional story, but Creed 2, compare Creed 2 to Rocky 4, related films, obviously. Rocky 4, it's a feel-good film. It makes you want to work out. Creed 2, great fight scenes, great training scenes, but it just lacks that 80s feel-good factor. Um, I do think there's a certain joy that's been taken away from films in recent years because of a focus on a range of factors, visual effects, I guess. And I have to say the visual effects on this are very good. I have no criticism of that, but it just feels like it's an overtly melancholic feel about it when it should be celebrating one of the great achievements of humanity. And whatever the rationale for that, I think it falls flat. So if I'm giving this film a mark out of 10, I'd say five, six if I'm being generous. But for me, that overture to the sadness is just it was distracting, and it was. I mean, in contrast to Apollo 13, and of course Apollo 13 is about a near disaster, but with Apollo 13, to me, it's a much more enjoyable film because you really get the excitement of that launch, and that wasn't even Apollo 11. That was like, you capture the moment. Even though there were inaccuracies with it, it captures the feel of that. Um, and then you have the whole sort of focus on if these three guys are coming home to Earth, the human interest story. First Man very much tries to get the human interest of Armstrong's personal life, but I think it just falls flat and you end up feeling kind of depressed when it's meant to be one of the great achievements of humanity. So I don't really know what Damien Chazelle's angle was with focusing so much on this. That's my thoughts. I'm not saying it's all bad. The visual effects are very good. I've no criticism of Gosling. And I'm not saying that there shouldn't be a focus on, those personal aspects, but I just think it was too gloomy, way too gloomy. There needed to be more of a celebration of that achievement rather than just homing in on the more somber side of Armstrong's personal life, in my opinion. Let me know your thoughts on First Man.